So this was a module that I just installed today. It's called the Custom Record Auto Numbering External Module. And what it allows you to do, it gives you some options for your auto numbering. So with REDCap, when you have a project, you either can have auto numbering turned on and it will increment through the records starting from 1 and going up incrementally, or you can turn the auto numbering off, and then REDCap will allow you to enter a unique identifier for the record itself. And there's never been an in between. So we've had people who wanted to format the auto numbering, and they didn't want it to just be a single number. They wanted to have alpha characters, those kinds of things, and before that wasn't possible. But now with the with this external module, it is possible, but there are some limitations to it. So let me go to the this is the documentation for the module, and so this won't work. This only works with data entry, but it won't work if you have public surveys or if you do data imports using the CSV data import function, or if you're entering data through the API. You can also see down here that it works best before you enter the first record, because you can actually change the numbering. Once you've set the numbering, it doesn't lock it down. So you can actually change the formatting down the road. And so that could cause problems. So you want to make sure this is set up and isn't going to change. And that leads us to this next one here, is that it will not automatically convert records. So if you do decide that you want to change, or if you've, when you've set it up and you've realized, you didn't set it up correctly and you want to do it again, if you change the auto numbering, it's not going to go back and update the record IDs for the other ones. And then finally, if you're randomizing, if you're using the randomization module in a project, the randomize button will be hidden until the record is saved, because basically what it's going to do is you're going to save the record. It's going to assign it that ID value, because it generates the ID value after the record's saved. And then it's going to give you the randomization button for you to randomize them, because that ID gets linked to the allocation table. So let me go through. These are the 6 options you have for the custom record auto numbering, and I will go through them right now to give you an example. So we would just go to the external modules here, and I already have it enabled here. But if you don't have it enabled, you can just click on enable a module and type up here when this list loads. If you would just type custom or auto or record number, it'll filter to that, and you'll see it here and it'll display, and then you just click enable and it shows up. So once it's enabled, you click configure, and then you have to pick which numbering option you want. And so I've gone through these already and set them up. So now if I go back through, you'll see that they already have values. So here, this first one is increment from a specific start value. So if I want to start at 501 instead of 1, I would just put the value in here that I want to start with, and then it would go from there. If I want to have alpha characters or any kind of text prefix, or even numerical prefix, I can leave this blank, but I can put anything I want in here, and then I can set the padding for the identifier. So if you left this blank and you just did 1 digit, that's essentially what REDCap's doing for its default auto numbering. But if you wanted leading digits, you would put this in. So if you wanted, like, for example, this would be, I have it set with 5 digits, so it would be AB 00001. And I can show you these as we go. So let me set this. I'll just set this as like 901, and we'll save this. And let me go to add a record, and I'll open it in a new window. And I just created an instrument with, 2 fields, so we can quickly go through. And you can see here, normally REDCap has tells you which record ID that is going to be assigned, but now it's not going to do that until after it's saved. So if we just save and exit the form, did I save that? Okay, for some reason it did this one. It added another one for this one here. So let me try that again. I don't know why. For some reason, it's adding the previous one that I had configured, and not that's this one, the timestamp. So let me show you what I did before, and this will make some sense for you. Let me just delete this record here.
Manny, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So if you change, it looks like you've done this. So it looks like you can change this midstream. Is that the case?
Yeah, and that's why I'm surprised. That's why I'm wondering why it's going back to this. So the last option is this Unix timestamp that I did. And so I'm surprised that it's going back to that instead of doing the, maybe it's because I'm having to specify the first record ID. Let me do this. Let me go back to the way this was here and try it again. Because it might be that I've already set the record ID.
Maybe change it to 400 so you're before the 501.
Well, I'm thinking that it's looking for the 501, and then I'm surprised it's not giving me 502.
Oh, okay.
But it could just be because of the way this is programmed that it's, yeah, because it's just giving me the Unix. So let me go back and let me change it to another one that doesn't have. Because I only added one record of each type. And it'd be interesting if it, see, so it has something to do with the way it's grabbing that first value in the dashboard here. So for some reason, this first option, it's looking for, I've set this as 501, but even though I've set it, it didn't find it and go ahead and move to 502. But with the padded integer prefix, it picked up that it has the ID of 1 and it gave me the ID 2. So that's the second option, is with the padded increment prefix. The third one you can use with a data access group. And I created a data access group in this project just called test. And you can actually set a certain number of characters. So if you wanted just the first character of the data access group, up to the first 5 characters or the last character, or the group ID, or use a unique name. And I just have the first 4 characters because it's test. And I'm adding an underscore, and then I'm just giving the padding of 3 digits. So you can see here in this that it's giving me test underscore 001 as the auto number. And let me save that and see if it'll let me add another record for that. So it's of course, it's going to ask for the access group. Yeah, so now it's giving me test underscore 002 for that one. And then the fourth option is just it's just a date format. And so this one's a little more complicated because you have to know the PHP datetime format for these. And so it's basically like you need to know how PHP formats dates, and if you want numbers, or if you want the 2-digit year, the 4-digit year, or if you want the 3 alpha date month, or if you want the full month name, that kind of thing. And so what I've done here is I've just done the 4-digit year, the 2-digit month, the 2-digit day, and then an underscore, and then the hours. And because the lowercase m is for month, they have an I, lowercase I for minutes, and lowercase s for seconds. And I have those separated by a colon. So if I save that, and let me go back to this here and add a record. It should just automatically assign it the time, the date and time that it was saved. And you can see here that this is the date, and then I believe the capital H is the 24-hour clock, and then the minutes and the seconds. So if you wanted it just by time, this definitely wouldn't be something you would want if you're entering a lot of stuff really quickly. And if you are, you want to make sure you're having the seconds, because or else you're going to have something that has the same, time, hour, and a minute. And then finally, the last one is, well, the second to last one, but the last one I did is the Unix timestamp. And you don't have any options for this. It's just the 16-digit timestamp that's in a Unix format. And we saw that here. So this long number here is the Unix timestamp. Now, the last one that I didn't mess with because it's a little more complicated is it's project-specific custom auto-numbering schema. And it uses JSON strings, and you have to use file and class names. And the documentation wasn't very clear on exactly how to use this part. So if we go back to the documentation, it just says that it supports the addition of novel auto-numbering schemes via custom code. And it's an advanced feature for module developers. And if we go to the more detailed explanation here, the guide created by the developer, even at the end of there, because they walk you through all of the options, but even in their options, the last, the custom one isn't there. And when you scroll all the way down, they give you examples of each one of, like, so for here, it gives you an example of the Unix timestamp and explains what the timestamp is. But then it ends after the timestamp. So it doesn't give you an example of how to use that custom module. So I didn't mess with it. So that's the custom auto numbering. It seems like it would be a nice thing to have for a project if you want to separate things, like if you have, data access groups. What would be nice is if you could do that, if maybe down the road they'll add something for like events, because like you may not have different data access groups, but you may have events, and it might be nice to have 2 alpha characters for each event or something, baseline, visit 1, visit 2, that kind of thing. That way you can see your data all separate like that, or assign separate identifiers for each visit, kind of thing. So it's kind of cool that you could do that with, if you wanted a padded integer. It would be nice if you could specify these kinds of things, like if you could do multiple prefixes down the road based on what kind of data you're entering. But that, I feel like this is like a good first foray into this, and then eventually, they'll probably add more features, but at least it gives you some flexibility instead of just using REDCap's default auto numbering right out of the gate, or having to forego auto numbering because you wanted to use alpha characters or some formatting that you couldn't use before.
So just to jump in for a second, this is really a nice addition. I've had requests that want to use like the AB underscore, and then they'll have a number of zeros they want to precede that number. So what we've had to do in the past up until now that I see this one is I would have to write a script in the back end that would run. We would create a variable that was not the record ID, but was a secondary type of ID that would get populated when they save the record. So they would tell me how many zeros they wanted before the ID. And so let's say they wanted to do the AB dash 4 zeros and then the record number. So that would have to all be scripted, which you can't, you as a regular user wouldn't be able to do. It wouldn't mean that we couldn't satisfy that requirement for you, but boy, this is so great that we won't have to script this. And if they want to use this as the actual record ID, then they can. The other beauty of this is I always worry about people that want to create some kind of record ID that, let's say, for example, uses initials of the person and then, concatenate that with an ID. You cannot use that as a de-identified piece of data. So if you go to export, you've put yourself behind the 8 ball because you cannot export a record ID that would contain anything that would be related to PHI. So using this method, you've just decided that AB is the textual prefix that you want to use, and then the rest is just auto numbered. So that satisfies the need for being fully de-identified. So this is really nice for those of people that want to use this because it may be related to project specific information. It can keep their data separate on an export. They know exactly what project this is coming out of based on the record ID. I can see, some various ways. Data access groups, when they create records, are now identifiable in the record status dashboard, but in the past, that was also, not something that you could do. Anyway, this is really slick and it's going to save me some time because, it's not every time somebody would want something like this, we wouldn't be able to do it, and certainly not for a record ID. So I'm glad you found that.
Yeah, me too. It'll be interesting to see how, like if you did something with this, like we had this AB and the 5 digits set up. I'm wondering if because it doesn't automatically apply to data that's imported, but I'm wondering if you could import data that has that format. So for example, if, if we set up this format but didn't enter any data and then entered 100 records, so that would be AB 00100, I'm wondering if REDCap will pick up on that. And so the next record I enter will be 101, or if it, will just error out, or, we'll just start at 1. Because I'm wondering, it doesn't update the imported data, but I'm wondering if it can base its auto numbering off of the data that's in there already.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That'll be my next, because I'll tinker with this a bit more and try to figure out what its limitations are.
So once they changed and upgraded to allow you to, if you're doing an Excel spreadsheet import for the record ID, it used to be that you had to identify a record ID for import, but now you can just add the word new and it will automatically figure out what the next number is. But I'm curious how it would handle, especially something starting with something easy like the AB 0001, and see how it would do by just rather than having to figure out what the next record ID is for the import and put that in, which is problematic if the project is live.
Yeah.
You could just use the new and it would pick up what the next one is. That would be interesting. The other thing is, it would be kind of, there's a number of ways of getting the same result, but I usually try, when I have a survey, to create a read-only field that's hidden on the survey that captures the date and time of the survey, because that's held in something that's not really accessible easily for people to see, just at a glance. You couldn't like put it on your record status dashboard to see the date and time of something or whatever, which is why I usually create a variable so that I can grab it and then I can use it anywhere. But if you appended it to your record ID, then it may be something that you could pull out or easily see, or might be useful to you, so you'd know exactly at a glance when that record was created. That's kind of neat. I don't know that I can really quickly think through all the possibilities, but it's cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it'll be helpful.
Any questions?